Hey guys, you absolutely have to see the next video. If you weren't aware, Patrick Byrne dropped a bombshell of an interview this week. Some of the highlights of that interview are Hillary Clinton taking a $20 million bribe from the Azerbaijan government. That was set up as a sting at the behest of the FBI, James Comey, Barack Obama. He also talks about Hunter Biden trying to arrange an $800 million bribe from Iran in exchange for helping them with their Iran nuclear program. Joe Biden would step in and help with that, obviously. And he talks about some other stuff that you guys just have to hear about in the following video. So you have to see it. Here it comes. So Patrick Byrne just gave an interview with Capital Times magazine, and it is one of the craziest interviews I've ever heard. And I don't mean crazy by unbelievable or crazy as in Patrick's crazy. I actually think Patrick has tremendous integrity. He's one of the smartest and most honorable guys out there. I've come across him in my past experience in the Bitcoin and digital asset space. I was aware of Patrick when I was a hedge fund manager for the war he waged on Wall Street regarding illegal short selling, which was basically fraudulent shares that were created out of thin air, so-called phantom shares, short selling without locating a borrow, all types of financial shenanigans that hurt stocks and hurt the retail investor. And Patrick waged a war against that and didn't get entirely too far with it, mostly because he was obstructed at every stage by the people who were supposed to be defending the retail investor, people like the SEC and DOJ, NASD, FINRA, all the regulators that were supposed to be looking into these types of faults with the plumbing of Wall Street were actually, as you can imagine, captured regulators, meaning they were working for the big banks. They were working for the hedge funds, the Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanleys, those types of funds, versus actually protecting the retail customer who was being hurt by this behavior. But that's not what this interview is about. That's just a little bit of background on Patrick. You can read it for more background. He's got an incredible story. One of the smartest guys out there, as I mentioned, graduated from Dartmouth, master's and PhD degrees from Cambridge and Stanford. He's a computer scientist and entrepreneur. He was the CEO of Overstock, helped launch T0. And in this interview, he goes into his extensive knowledge that he has regarding the election and some of the irregularities and fraud that was there. But he also has a couple of other major bombshells that make it reading on its own. And I had heard whispers of some of these, but Patrick actually has firsthand knowledge of several of the things mentioned. And I'd say probably the two most explosive claims, and there's a half dozen at least, but the two most explosive are he talks about during 2015, I think it was, that he was ordered to set up a sting on Hillary Clinton. And he was ordered to do this by the Justice Department, by FBI agents and prosecutors acting on behalf, and he names names, James Comey, Barack Obama, who was president at the time. And the backstory was that they had discovered that Hillary had already taken a $20 million bribe from a foreign government. They knew she was dirty, and they wanted to set up a sting to catch her in the business. So Patrick was charged with setting up this sting, perpetrated the sting on Hillary. In a Washington, D.C. hotel, she met a bagman for Azerbaijan, which was the country that was offering the bribe, in order to, once she was president, have her on their side and help them, obviously, with some foreign policy issues. And it was an $18 million bribe, and Hillary met the bagman and took the bribe. And Patrick, was overjoyed at this, not because he's a Republican. He actually probably tends more towards the Democratic side, but because she was dirty and corrupt. And that's obviously not a good thing for our public servants. And when he met the FBI guys afterwards, he thought they would give him, high fives, champagne type of excitement, considering this was probably the most successful sting of a public figure of all time. And instead, they had a very different attitude. They told him in clear terms, you have to forget this ever happened. we're not going to proceed with this. And when he pressed him, they said, look, she's going to be president. When she gets president, the first thing she's going to do is try to find out who at the DOJ, who in the FBI was in charge of this sting, and she will go after them and destroy their lives. So that was what he was told. At a follow-up meeting, he still was upset about it, let them know. I mean, that's the type of calculus that probably should have been done before the sting was set up, before he put his life and career and reputation at risk. And he pressed, and he was told again, look, that's not entirely the truth. The truth is that we want to keep this in our pocket, and that President Obama and people, certain actors at the Justice Department and elsewhere, so-called deep state actors, want to have this in their pocket when they need it, so that when Hillary is president for 8 years, she's either going to do exactly what we tell her to do, or if she doesn't, we will pull this bribe out and get her impeached or embarrass her or have her prosecuted or whatever. So the plan was, he was told, was basically you're going to have Hillary for 8 years and then Michelle Obama after Hillary for 8 years. So it's going to be a 24-year presidency by Obama. And there's been a lot of information that I think in the Biden term that sort of leads to this conclusion as well. I don't think there's anybody who thinks Biden's actually pulling the strings. The guy could barely put together 2 coherent sentences. Most people think Obama is the puppeteer behind Biden. But either way, this was a shock for Patrick to hear that instead of exposing this bribe, this illicit activity by Hillary, the deep state and Obama and other nefarious actors were just going to sit on it. So that was bombshell number 1. Number 2 was he talks about Hunter Biden, which, again, based on recent activities and events, should be no surprise to anybody. But he talks about Hunter Biden recently, this is in the last 18 months, setting up a meeting with Iran and trying to shake down Iran for a huge bribe. And the quid pro quo would be they would help, Joe Biden would help Iran with the Iranian nuclear agreement and sort of go easy on Iran, allowing them to get nukes, keep their nukes, as well as critically allowing them to unfreeze $8 billion that they had frozen in South Korea. So Hunter, acting for Joe, would go to South Korea, get that $8 billion unfrozen, and then act as a proxy for getting the Iranian nuclear program kickstarted again. And in exchange for that, he wanted a 10% kick, which was $800 million. $8 billion, you get that unlocked, you get to keep 10%, which is $800 million. So that's bombshell number 2, which is mind-blowing, because this isn't stuff that even happened when Joe was vice president or during the time when Trump was president. This is recently. This is in the last 18 months. So that's monstrous to hear about. Another bombshell was the Hunter Biden laptop, which everybody's familiar with, that the copy of the laptop that Rudy Giuliani had, the copy that Hunter apparently took to the repair shop, that there were over 400,000 files on that Hunter actually bleach bit and destroyed that were thought to be lost, but that what he calls them are dolphin speakers, cyber hackers, computer scientists were able to recover those. And Patrick, as well as others, have a mirror image of that hard drive that's completely uncorrupted, that has all of the deleted files as well. So there are some bombshells in the article about that. And just in general, the entire interview and article has a lot of that type of information, including some very interesting stuff about the election and the way that was conducted in 2020. A lot of evidence that shows that it was, as he says, Bill Barr likes to say there was no widespread fraud. There didn't need to be widespread fraud. There only had to be narrow and specific fraud, and he shows quite a bit of that in the key 6 cities. The entire election turned on 6 cities or 6 counties. Those 6 cities were in the 6 swing states. For the first time in history, as you all know, counting was actually stopped in a presidential election. When it resumed, there was a huge shift to Joe Biden, and he claims with good evidence that a lot of that, if not all of it, was completely programmed and corrupt and false. So I highly recommend you read the article. It's earth-shaking. Again, I can't say 100% of it's true, but from what I know of Patrick, like I said, integrity, honest, truthful, an incredible entrepreneur, a very bright person, and there's enough evidence out there apart from Patrick to back up a lot of his claims. So it's a must-read. If we had anything close to a functioning government or a functioning law enforcement, there would be special prosecutors announced immediately to look into many of these claims. And, House Republicans at a minimum should conduct hearings immediately, and there should be special counsels appointed. So read the article. I'll put the link in my bio, and that's it.